Now, moving on, because I'm in Italy, I thought it would be important to have a photograph of a beautiful, beautiful Italian racing bike. And the reason I've put this slide here is because I think that this is a fantastic reference or perspective on a pricing model for the future of our industry. Bear with me on this one because it will take a little bit of explanation. So when you buy a bicycle, your bicycle is pretty much the same as everybody else's bicycle. You turn a pedal, it turns the wheels, and you can go up hills. But anybody who buys a bicycle knows that you want to spend a little bit more money, if you can, to buy slightly lighter equipment for it, slightly more technical equipment, slightly more high performance equipment. So you have the ability to do microtransactions on your bicycle to improve its capability. Now, in fact, if you're into biking, they turn out to be macro transactions because you spend a fortune. But the point is, anybody who buys a bike can augment that bicycle with functionality, which they spend money to acquire, or things that look cool. So that could be clothing, or it could be things that you attach to the handlebars when you're a kid. Now, the point about bicycles is that there is really no upper limit. You can go as much as you can. You can spend as much as you like, and you can start as low as you like. And this model of pricing is something that our industry is starting now to learn about. And this is the trend that I'd like to talk about, which is the number of users who are prepared to pay at any given price point is fixed. This is kind of economic theory, that the total number of people who are prepared to spend a certain amount of money is a function of their economic desire to buy the product. And if you set your product with a fixed price, meaning a retail price of 60 euros or 50 euros, or a subscription price of 10 euros a month, that will be a successful business, but you will only get a certain number of users prepared to play your game. That will be fixed. And so from left to right is the number of users prepared to play, and from bottom to top is the price that they are prepared to pay. If you make your product free at some point, free at the point of entry, you will create a whole world of new customers who would not otherwise have engaged in your product. We've all done it. We've all started to play a game for free, and then maybe if it grabs you, you spend a little bit and microtransact, or you spend a bit more, and then you become a real customer. And as you chase that level up, you are generating a whole universe of new customers who would not otherwise have played your game. Conversely, we should create an opportunity for customers who absolutely love our products, spend a fortune. And why not? Because in any hobby or any fashion or anything that we love in our life, we always are prepared to spend a lot of money to do it. And so why should we not allow that to happen in games? So if you imagine being able to even extend that up to thousands of dollars, I know that there are online games today where they have individual customers, individual people, not corporations, who've spent over $50,000 to play that game. And there obviously aren't very many of them, but the fact that you have the ability to support that kind of business model makes the game fun for everybody else. So the people who pay nothing are valuable because they create a large universe and they create a large player base. And the people who spend an awful lot, what is known in some circles rather unfortunately as whale customers, these customers who spend a amount of money, typically they're doing this because they give items and they give virtual objects to other players just for the fun of it, because they enjoy being part of the economy of the game. So the area in blue doubles the potential revenue that you generate from a game. And to achieve this, you have to put this process into your game design from the beginning. So I think anybody entering the game business now needs to think about economics as much as they do about 3D engines. And it used to be when you started a game development company, your first line of business, your first line of code was, what's my graphics engine going to be? What's my 3D engine going to be? How am I going to visualize the product with the best polygons and the best lighting and the best animation? I don't believe that's true anymore. I think the first line of business for any developer moving into the industry is metrics and analytics. understanding how your customers spend money. This is the first principles for any game developer. How do you build technology that measures what your players are doing in as close to a real-time way as you can, so that your game design can respond to their needs and respond to their preferences inside the game, so that you can optimize your offer and optimize the game design so that they enjoy it more. It's a virtuous cycle. And tightening this feedback loop between testing, deploying, analyzing, redesigning, and developing is essential for the success of any online game. And there are loads of tools and technologies that you can get that will allow you to do this. But as any developer starting out now, the first thing I would do is hire or partner with the smartest people you can who understand this. Don't worry about graphics, understand metrics and analytics before anything else. And there's a guy called Ben Holmes, who is another venture capitalist friend of mine, who was an investor in Playfish, and I think he summed this up with a great quote where he said, venture capitalists really prefer game companies to operate and behave like e-commerce businesses under the hood. Now, so what is on the outside world is a game, but what is on the inside, what is on the core technologies, is really a very complex e-commerce engine. And this is the skills that we have to adopt as an industry. So moving on, Gordon Moore was one of the founders of Intel, and he came up with this wonderful law called Moore's Law. And this is actually a copy of one of his original charts that said that the transistor count in a CPU and a computer would double every 2 years, and this would result in the commoditization of computer technology over a long period of time. And it's actually proven to be remarkably accurate over the last 30, 40 years. Now, what's interesting about the chart is that basically you get two choices with Moore's Law. You can either build more technology into the same surface area of a chip, or you can make an old technology cheaper and consume less power. And that trade-off allows you to make iPhones and personal computers that have unbelievable performance relative to what was achievable just a few years ago. And there's an interesting point there which I've circled in red, which is the Atom chipset from Intel, which moved off the curve on purpose because they were trading battery and power consumption for performance. So they reduced their performance in order to increase the battery life of their device. And that is another benefit of Moore's Law, that you can make the same thing run with less heat and less power. And I'm not going to go into this in detail, but this is looking likely to continue at least until 2025 is when the scientists reckon that Moore's Law will start to come up against the speed of light as a kind of practical limitation. And I think there's a few people trying to beat the speed of light, but it may be a kind of a dead end. So connected to Moore's Law, I'd like to ask the audience why the 3rd of April 1973 was an important date. And just to jog your memory, it was a Tuesday, in case anybody trying to remember. Any suggestions what that date was about? It also coincidentally happened to be my 3rd birthday, but that's got nothing to do with it at all. This is a complete coincidence, and I only found this out the other day when I was putting this slide together. I'll give you a clue. It is not for this reason, which also happened on the 3rd of April 1973, the Regulation 907/73 establishing a European Monetary Cooperation Fund. It was not that reason. The date and place is kind of important. This event happened on 6th Avenue in New York, in the United States. Go on. Not a stock market crash. 6th Avenue is kind of away from the financial system. It didn't have to be in New York, but it just happened that this was in New York. I'll tell you, it was the first cell phone call was made by a gentleman called Martin Cooper, who worked for Motorola. And this was using a publicly established network. This was not just in the laboratory. And this was a picture taken more recently, but using the same phone, the Star Dynatac, I think it's called. And he said that the talk time, the battery life of the phone was only 20 minutes. But he said it wasn't a problem because the thing weighed a kilogram and you couldn't hold it up to your ear for that long anyway. So it was not really a major consumer disadvantage. The reason I'm talking about Martin Cooper is not because he happened to make the first cell phone, but he has this thing called Cooper's Law, which, similar to Moore's Law, talks about the impact of technology on wireless communications. And every 30 months, the quantity of data that can be sent across the usable radio frequencies doubles. So this allows your WAP phone to then become GPRS, to then become 3G, and then Wi-Fi, and then super Wi-Fi technologies which are propagating around the world.